Fayette County Schools Superintendent Dr. Demetrius Liggins remains on paid administrative leave.
We have received a number of questions about the state's retirement system and when an employee becomes vested. Our Kelsey Soto is here now in studio with us with this WKYT fact check.
Well, we wanted to get people answers. So in Kentucky, educators and administrators are part of the Teachers Retirement System, or KTRS. It was established back in 1938, and it's the largest public retirement system here in the state. The members get a guaranteed lifetime retirement benefit based on the length of service, their final average salary, a multiplier, and a payment option chosen. So you might remember there was a political fight in Frankfort over funding for teacher pensions back in 2018. Those with at least 5 years of service in Kentucky public schools, their pension is secured. Now, if you leave before retirement, you can keep those contributions in the system and begin drawing a monthly lifetime annuity once you reach the eligible age, or you can roll them over to another retirement program. But if you withdraw the money prior to retirement, you could face penalties with the IRS. State laws did change so that benefits and requirements depend on when a member first entered the system. Dr. Demetrius Liggins' official start date was July 26 of 2021. That's according to his contract, which would put him in Tier 3. That is defined as someone who entered the system between July 1 of 2008 and December 31st of 2021. Tier 3 allows someone to begin withdrawing those funds at 60 years old with 5 years of service without penalty. Now, if you contribute to KTRS for 27 years, you can withdraw that money without penalty at any age. If someone leaves before becoming eligible for that retirement, they can go ahead and leave those funds deposited, or they can withdraw the accumulated balance. But in 2002, the General Assembly did amend state statutes so that anyone convicted of a felony related to their employment will forfeit their retirement benefits, and they'll only get their retirement contributions plus any interest.